Hey everybody. Hey, happy, what are we on? Sunday. Happy Sunday, everybody. Thank you for being here. I don't know what's going on with my live, you guys bear with me. It shows me that there are 0 people here, but there are obviously you guys in the comments. So there's something going on. So bear with me if things are a little bit wonky today, but I'm going to try to keep this a little short. I know this is a little later for me, and I usually don't go live on Sundays, but I did want to hop onto this topic a bit because it's just been blowing up all over my feed. I'm constantly seeing videos of it, and I'm like, let me just quickly touch on this subject, give my perspective, and then move about my day and my life because I don't want this to be the focus for the next week or two, at least on this channel. So, anyways, thank you guys for being here. Like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. So, anyways, I'm sure by now you guys are fully aware of all the controversy that's been going on in the Black YouTube space over a white woman, which imagine that. But the recent interview that Just Pearly Things did with Nick Fuentes went viral and got a lot of people upset, a lot of people mad over some of the comments that were made that were quite offensive. So that's been the topic of conversation over the last couple of days. It's been quite interesting to see how Black folks literally have been going back and forth over a white woman. Imagine that. And Black men specifically have been going back and forth each other over this content creator. So that has been very interesting to observe and see. But my perspective, I've alluded to this before, and I will allude to it again. This is not surprising to me. I'm like, the fact that there is so much outrage and there is so much, I guess, whether it's disgust or surprise over her saying something, alluding to something, blatantly expressing things that were anti-Black to another white man, like, I'm like, oh. I'm like, do y'all understand the history of America? Like, do y'all not understand what's going on? I was genuinely confused as to why so many people were surprised. So, yeah, I'm like, yeah, of course, white people, when they talk amongst each other, sometimes they will say racist things, or even if they themselves do not identify with racist ideology, they likely have somebody in their family who does. I brought in a guest last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, and we talked about this specific thing. She's in an interracial marriage, right? And she was like, "Look, my family's cool, but yeah, my in-laws or no, my grandparent, my this, my that, like that is a reality." So I'm like, it's even if we think of that interview and how comfortable she was asking those questions and him saying some of those, Nick Fuentes, right, the white supremacist, saying some of those things that were obviously very offensive, and she's kind of nonchalant about it, it's like, yeah, because that's what white people experience in their family, even if they themselves don't identify with being racist or having racist ideals, even if they say they don't, they have somebody in their family who does. They're having those conversations regularly. Not to mention the fact that, like, again, I know one of the main points that I heard really getting people bent out of shape, it was everything from my Africans, and it was everything from the slavery wasn't that bad, yada yada. I alluded to this in my video where it's like, you guys, you have to understand these are ideals that have been going on literally since slavery and after slavery. This idea that slavery wasn't that bad, the plight of Black people not bad, yada yada. Again, this is why reparations is such a controversial topic, which is why it hasn't been passed, because there is these ideals in mainstream culture, in the culture that we have been integrated into, that essentially is there to downplay our experience. So again, I'm just like, I'm looking at these different things and I'm looking at the response, just like, oh my gosh, I'm so surprised we got to gatekeep these conversations. And I'm like, wait, how is it surprising? How do you not understand how white America in general thinks about Black folks? I'm not saying every white person, right? I'm not saying every person, but I'm like, in general, the nation has shown us what they think about Black America. Like it's pretty clear. So the fact to me that there has been so much confusion, and there's been so much like hysteria over a conversation between two white people that is actually quite common, is like, do y'all even know white folks? Do we even know history? So I've just been scratching my head the whole time. Like, this is not a surprising thing. Anyways, hey guys, like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. So I wanted to weigh on real quick. Thank you for bearing with me. So again, that was my main thing. I'm like, guys, this is not, to me, that conversation was not surprising at all. Now, was I necessarily expecting it? No. But am I surprised? No. Because again, I don't walk around in the world with this idea that race doesn't matter. We're in this post-racist society where everyone sees the color of love and like the lens of love. Like, I don't believe that. I don't, just because somebody sleeps with a black person, just because somebody has a black employee, or just because they may like rap music doesn't mean that they don't have racist ideals. Black people themselves have self-hating, anti-black racist ideals about themselves. So how much more can we see that, and do we see that oftentimes reflected in other communities? So again, my bigger point is this isn't surprising. If you know the history of America, this is kind of like what you would expect. With that said, like I said, to me, this wasn't really that, I'm gonna say it wasn't that big of a deal, but it's just not that surprising. And you know, another interesting thing about this whole topic was you already had content creators who had been, I want to say warning, but for lack of a better term, but who were pretty much, yeah, I guess the word would be warning, months ago, right? If not, as soon as this whole thing, as soon as her channel took off, you had specific content creators who were just like, "Hey, I think that this could lead to some different challenges, and here's why." Right? You had Omowale Africa, who was one, and that's why I think he just completely tried to get out of the Black Manosphere algorithm in particular. It was really over this whole conversation about culturally gatekeeping conversations, culturally gatekeeping issues that are specifically within the Black community, whether or not you should be having those conversations with other races, or whether or not it needs to be kept in house. And I remember him specifically, he called this stuff out months ago. And you know, of course, he's the hotep, or some people call him a tether, all the other stuff. But you know, he was one of the main guys I saw first off being like, "Hey guys, this is not a good look." And to be clear, you know, that was one of the times when I started, because I've never really watched a ton of Miss Pearly Things content. I've just seen her gone viral here and there, but I haven't like sat down and just been like a deep dive. But that was, I think, one of the first times I saw some of her videos, and I started seeing a lot of outrage from Black women. And my particular response at that time was, "Look, we can sit here and be mad about a white woman talking with Black people about relationship issues, but at the end of the day, Black woman, you're the very one that's talking about wanting to swirl with Brad. You wanted to get with her brothers. You wanted to get with Pearly's sisters, or some of y'all sisters and brothers and cousins." So it's like, again, when you're talking about integration, when you're talking about swirling and divesting and these different things, this is going to be the natural repercussion. So a couple of months ago, when I kind of touched upon this whole Miss Pearly thing and how her account had really blown up, my main gripe against Black women who were trying to come against her was, if you're promoting swirling and divesting and you are specifically trying to integrate into the white community, then you are going to be hearing from white women. That's now your family. So you can't be complaining about that. That was my main pushback, because I thought that a lot of the outrage that I was hearing from Black women was fake, because these are the same women talking about abort Black male babies, and the same women worshiping Brad. So it's like, if you're worshiping Miss Pearly's brother, you think she ain't got nothing to say about it? So that was my pushback months ago. But nevertheless, you know, that opens up a conversation about integration, right? About what it means when you are intermingling with other cultures, when you are intermingling with other races in a system that has a history of being against you. And I think what this entire situation is showing us is that, whether or not you want to believe the whole love is colorblind, or racist, I don't see color, whether or not you want to believe that or not believe that, the reality is the history in America is what it is. And the system still does not operate outside of race. Things are still very much organized based upon that socio-political economic construct. So to deny that completely, the problem with that is, now when you go interact with people outside of your race and you experience anti-Blackness, you can be completely and totally confused and be in a place of hysteria if you're not aware of what has actually gone on in history. And this is what I feel like I've seen this last couple of days, where I'm looking at these different content creators and their response. I'm just like, I can't believe this. Now we got a culturally gatekeep or whatever. And I'm like, no, I can understand the feelings. I can understand how someone would feel disgusted, or they may feel confused, and they may feel angry. I can understand all the emotions behind it. But I think this, to me, shows that there is a large, how do I put it? Like, I think right now there is a very elementary understanding of what race actually has meant and means today. And this situation to me has exposed it so clearly. And we're also seeing within the Black manosphere specifically how there's that clear distinction. You have one side of the Black manosphere from what I can see that is very much about, pull yourself up by the bootstraps and get it done. And you have some who will defend Pearly things or will continue to defend Miss Pearly things because ultimately, their position is she's employed Black people, she's helping Black people pay the bills. Y'all just mad. Y'all just mad, right? And then of course you have the other side where it's just like, look, it's not just about the money, right? Look, that's the slave master was doing the same thing. Y'all don't think two slaves on the plantation, one's just like, you trying to wonder, well, master's feeding me, master's giving me food, he's giving me a place to stay. Why are you complaining? Just sit here and be with master. So it's like I'm seeing this divide even somewhat within the Black manosphere where it's like, y'all need to be quiet. This woman is helping employ things. It's not that big of a deal. You are just mad that you haven't worked as hard. And then you have other people in the Black manosphere who are just like, or just a space in general, where they're like, no, it's not just about money. It's not just about access to money. Like you have to actually have self-respect. You have to have boundaries. And the reason we don't have access to money and have some of those resources is because we don't have respect for ourselves, because we don't have those boundaries. So this divide has always existed. And this situation to me is just showing it more, I think more so. But again, it's also a reminder to me that I think there is I don't want to say a huge lack of understanding, but I think sometimes in these spaces, we can kind of get so caught up in some of the more trendy stuff, like modern women, this, a person twerking on the table, that person with the 7 baby daddy. Like we can get caught up in all the kind of trendy stuff. And sometimes the things that are actually more substantial, the things that would actually help improve our day-to-day lives are not popular and they're not talked about a lot. I mean, the amount of lives, I had a couple of lives with historians, Black PhD historians who came in here and talked about not only Black history, but different things that are happening now today to help try to improve the Black culture. You think I got any super chats there? You think I got any support? You think I got people over there sharing that content? No. I've had Black men come in and talk about the different things that they're trying to do to help their community, the different programs and nonprofits. Do you think I got any super chats, any support? You think I had anybody share that or anybody try to sign up? No. I've had, different teachers, educators, people come on who are actually trying to put the grunt work in, actually trying to build, actually trying to do good, positive things that are actually going to help you and people who look like us. Do you think those videos and those topics and that content gets any traction? Do you think it gets any traction? And so I posted a video earlier this day talking about fake outrage. And what I'm not saying is that people aren't upset and people aren't mad. I'm not saying that. A lot of you guys are upset. A lot of you guys are mad. You maybe feel disrespected. You feel like we were bamboozled. You feel all those things, all these feelings. There's all this chaos. Those feelings are valid. I understand it. I get it. But when I said fake outrage, what I meant was, are you willing to do the things necessary to ensure that you yourself are respected? Are you willing to do the things necessary to ensure that you now can control your own story? Are you willing? That is what I'm saying. Because if the outrage is only for a moment, if it's only, oh, well, this person's a chameleon, that person's a chameleon, oh, they handled it the right way, they handled it the wrong way, and we just talk, and we're these keyboard organizationalists, we're these keyboard warriors, but we don't actually go out and support people or organize ourselves or at least help try to fund those who are doing the things that we want. Like if we don't actually put our skin in the game, it is fake outrage because nothing will change. If we are waiting for somebody to do something for us that we should do for ourselves, nothing will change. And so when I said fake outrage, I was saying, if the anger, if the feelings, if the frustration you're feeling does not actually produce positive change in your life, whether it is you change your actions or you decide to maybe build something yourself, or you decide, if it doesn't produce an action that is going to help improve your life or maybe the lives of those that you represent, to me, it's fake outrage. And to be fair, oh, it'll be emotional. We will all be in our feelings. We will call on the lives. We may send some super chats here or there. We may review videos. Like the emotions will be high. But when it comes back down to, okay, what does this mean? Will anything change? And will I be the one to change it? That is where I think we start to see how serious we are about these kinds of conversations. Again, guys, shout out to you for being here. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you, Tim Maza, for the 10 on the super sticker. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you. Also, wait, I think what was going on? I saw another super chat. I wanted to make sure that I acknowledge. Game Dreamer, thank you so much. You're always such a good supporter. So again, thank you guys. Like, share, subscribe. But anyways, yeah. So I really like there's just so much coming up, and I was seeing a lot of the frustration and seeing a lot of the tension and seeing some of the division within the Black Manosphere, and even now, even among some of the different female content creators. I saw Crimson Cure do a video. I saw Danica Marie, a Six the Goddess. They all did videos, so I had a chance to kind of weigh in. And like I said, they all made some really, really, really good points. Just one of the things that I really thought about when I was kind of just taking a step back and thinking about what this would actually mean is, I think the great thing about this conversation is it causes us, or it gives us a moment to really think about what is important and to also consider what our actions are going to, or what the results of our actions are going to be. So again, as I mentioned before, we live in a society that is largely integrated. And America has a history of not being favorable to Black people, period. It has a history of that. Now, we can argue as to whether or not things are fair. Now, we can argue going back and forth. But nevertheless, it has a history of not being nice. And it has a history of actually being mean to Black people, right? Of being discriminatory to Black people. That is the history of us here. So now when you live in an integrated society that has that, you cannot be surprised if you run into that, whether it be systematically or in the mindsets of people. Even people who don't think that they're racist, even in people who say that they're well-meaning, you can't be surprised when there are remnants of that because of the history here, and also because of the struggle that is still going on. You still have people who are fighting for reparations. Now, whether or not you think that's going to happen is another question. But nevertheless, the fact that that is still a large talking point speaks to the fact that there are still struggles that people are experiencing, that Black community that we're experiencing today, that have yet to be remedied. And so until that is fully addressed, yes, as long as you're in an integrated society that has proven through history that it discriminates against you, you are going to run against that. You have to expect that. I'm not saying that you can't still have a lovely, prosperous life. You absolutely can. We all know people who have, or know of people who have and who do. So I'm not saying that that can't happen. I'm just saying you can't be surprised if you run into that because of what this nation has shown that it thinks about Black people, period. That's what it means to be integrated in society. As Martin Luther King said, you're being integrated into a burning building, into a burning house. That's what it means. And actually, I wanted to read this for you guys because I thought this was pretty significant. I'm actually may post this on my community tab too. You may or may not have heard about this, but this is actually a quote from MLK. It was a quote from MLK, and it was something he said not too long before he died. But I'll read it again. Some of you guys have probably heard of it. Some of you have not. But it says, I've come upon something that disturbs me deeply. We have fought hard and long for integration, as I believe we should have. And I know we will win, but I have come to believe that we are integrating into a burning house. Again, I read it. MLK, Martin Luther King, they all got holidays after him. He says, I have come to believe that we are integrating into a burning house. I'm afraid that America has lost the moral vision she may have had. And I'm afraid that even as we integrate, we are walking into a place that does not understand that this nation needs to be deeply concerned with the plight of the poor and disenfranchised. This is Martin Luther King, the one who literally helped lead the charge in civil rights and integration, all that. He is the one that says, have I integrated my people into a burning house? Have I integrated my people into a place, into a system that is not good for them, or that does not value them, or that cannot value them? This is MLK. And so again, I'm saying, when we talk about anything, living in an integrated society, whether it could be something as small as you're going on different platforms of different cultures, different races, you're living amongst other communities. Some of y'all talk about divesting, some of y'all talk about SOSBM, some of y'all talk about going and leaving, or, just expanding your options, whatever it may be. You cannot divorce that from the history of this nation, because that history lives within the memory of people, whether it be themselves personally or their grandparents or their parents who raised them. Nevertheless, it exists. So going back to what I said earlier, when people were so surprised at her response, I'm like, if you understood or knew anything about this nation, or if you understood or knew anything about the history and how white identity politics and the ways that, yes, the ways that white people have seen Black people, or more specifically, the policies, the beliefs, the ideology that has been practiced, that makes basically gives a reason for Black folks to continue to be screwed over. Like, this wouldn't be surprising to you. Wouldn't be surprised that a white person talks to another white person and says something that is like racist or insensitive, or like that wouldn't be surprising to you, because you understand the struggle that has happened and is still going on. So I'm saying this is what it means to be integrated into America. You're going to run into these moments. You may have somebody that you think is really nice and really kind, and then you found out they say something that's insensitive. You may, or sometimes you say something that they think is racist, and you have to deal with that. So that's all I'm trying to say. It's like, this is not surprising. This is what it means to actually be integrated into other cultures and other societies, in a place specifically like America, where this history exists and things still exist today that continue to keep this tension alive. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what all I'm trying to get you guys to understand. Like, this is not surprising. Now, again, I'm not saying that you can't have a good, I'm not saying you can't have, live a good life in America as a Black person, that you can't have friends or connections with people who are Black. Like, obviously, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you can't be surprised if you run into some anti-Black sentiments. This is like, duh. Now, with that said, when we want to talk about cultural gatekeeping, I also wanted to bring up the point of, how can you culturally gatekeep when you are integrated? And if we are interested in doing that, realistically, what would that look like? What would that look like? If you look at other communities, right? If you look at, again, the Chinese communities, who have their own schools, who have their own, they have their own churches, they have their own towns, literally. Like, how many Chinatowns around this nation, God only knows. Their own stores, their own businesses where they employ each other. They have their own ecosystem. They probably even have their own banks. Same with Indians. They'll have their own restaurants. They employ each other. They employ each other's families. They have their own wedding practices. They have their own language. They have their own schools. They have their own teachers where they teach. So it's like they have their own system. Although they're in the West, and they're getting along with other cultures, they still have their own culture. They still have their own practices by which they can tell their own story. They're not depending upon other people or other resources who may not fully understand them, or who may not have their best interests at heart to tell their own story. They're doing that themselves. And so, again, when we're talking about these conversations about cultural gatekeeping, that is having the tools and the control necessary to tell our own story and to control our own narrative, and to determine whether or not, okay, we feel it's right to have this conversation indoors, in-house, or to inviting people in. Again, my question is, do we even have the system to do that? Do we even have that? Do we have the resources necessary and available to do that? And this is going back to my earlier point. Unless there is a push towards that, unless there are actionable items, and there are things that are done, there are systems put in place, there is an effort to build, to collaborate, unless that happens, then going back to what I said about fake outrage, we will feel emotional and we will have all these feelings in the moment. But the environment that existed that allowed that to happen will continue to exist, because there's a gap there. I hope I'm making sense. I hope I'm making sense. Again, guys, if you're here, like, share, subscribe. For some reason, it is not telling me how many people are on my live, so that's kind of annoying. But again, I wanted to just reiterate quickly and just touch upon this just Pearly thing scenario, so I can start the week doing my thing. Thank you guys for those of you who are here. Let me see some of your comments, and I've been kind of going in. Yeah, I see. This sounds like the majority of my white friends. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, there's a culture, there's a culture behind this where, um, and I've literally heard this, from other white people who will, when they're honest about sometimes what white people will say behind closed doors, or what their cousins will say behind closed doors, and they'll joke and they'll talk about the way they actually joke about the Holocaust, or the things they'll say about people who, white men who date out, or white women who date out, or the jokes they'll make about black people. Like, white people know what other racist white people do behind closed doors. And that's what I was saying too. It's like some of y'all were just like, man, why is she so comfortable? She's so comfortable and she's so relaxed around this guy. And it's just like, are you kidding me? That could be, that maybe could be her cousin. That could be her this, that could be her that. And she said things, obviously, that it's just like, yeah, that's probably you. Like, that's probably you. And so that's what I'm like, you guys, this is not, sometimes I think we get online and we hear results, we hear about other cultures online, or we think about them from what we see online or movies or television, but we haven't actually sat down and talked to them. We haven't actually sat down and heard their experiences. Like, I know white people who have told me, oh yeah, so and so, like my mom said this, if I bring home an Asian person, this is going to happen to me. If I bring home a black person, this is going to happen to me. It's like, if you talk to a white person, they will tell you what they think, or what people in their family or in their culture think. So again, I said before, why are we surprised about two white people sitting down and having a conversation that white people have all the time behind closed doors? Like, this is not surprising. You have to know what you are dealing with when we are integrating, or when we are mixing in this society. This society is not post-racial. It's not it's none of that. I'm not saying you can't have a good life, and I'm not saying that you can't still experience good things and make great connections. You actually absolutely can and absolutely will. All I am saying is just be more aware. Like, don't be this. The fact that this is surprising to folks, are just like, where y'all been? Hello, this is not surprising. And it's also interesting for me, just seeing this whole division over the Black Manosphere. I think, if nothing else, it has shown me. This is just my personal thought, y'all. My personal thought. Yeah, you said Crimson Crow called out Pro months ago. I didn't even know. Honestly, I did not even know. I did not know about that clip. I seen that clip a few days ago, and I was like, no, that like, there's no way you can come around that. There's no way, because she's like, oh, they can just let him. They couldn't just let him go because they were property. Like, what the hell? Like, what? Like, they could go home, their actual home, where they were stolen from. But that's a whole other thing. So yeah, I wasn't aware of that clip. I just saw it like a second ago, and it's like, yeah, no, you have to deal with that. Like, there's no skirting back from that. Like, that is clearly some racist ideology that you're gonna have to go sit down and deal with. And the good news about the social media is, like, stuff is out there. Stuff is out there. So it's like I said, if somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And someone wants to work and try to do and build something better, okay, let's work on that. But let's not sit here and be gaslit, or let's not sit here and be surprised, y'all. Y'all know what time it is. Y'all didn't see in history. We read history. We know what people think. We can look at the way this nation is even going today, the policies that haven't passed or are not passed, and we can know that, like, things are not always what they say they are. Let me just keep it at that. Let me see. Yeah, so I don't know, y'all. Like, I don't want to spend too much time on this, because I think you've had so many people. It's such an emotional topic. It's such an emotional time. At the end of the day, like I said, she said what she said with Nick Fuentes. I know she did an apology. Y'all can look at that apology however you want. I think at the end of the day, there's definitely some racist ideals there that she has to go and sit and figure out and deal with. Like, I'm not co-signing that. I think this stuff was really insensitive. I think this stuff was really racist. And even if it was accidentally done, even if she didn't know, that still exposes something inside of the heart that needs to be addressed. That's me. So I'm not sitting here and saying, oh, well, is not that, is, she just had a bad day, or she didn't sleep enough, or she didn't know. I'm like, even if that was the case, and there were some ignorant mistakes that were made, there's obviously some racist ideals that you need to address. So that's how I'm looking at it. But I think, to me, the bigger issue isn't necessarily Miss Pearly things. To me, I think the bigger issue, or the bigger focus, rather, I want to say issue, but the bigger focus is, okay, if Black people, Black America is really serious about being able to control their own narrative and being able to create spaces where they feel like they can tell their own story and be respected. Are we willing to do that? And what would that take? And I would argue that unfortunately, when there are people out there who are interested in building that reality, or people out there who are interested in trying to help create a space where, as a Black person, you can tell their experience. You got to have somebody else tell it for you. You got to have somebody else there manage it or be a middleman. When you have people out there who are trying to create that space, they're usually called the Hoteps, or they're called the simp mother goddess. They're called tethers. Like, they end up being degraded. Like, I've had people come in here and use pro-Black as if it's a pejorative, and I'm like, first of all, I've never walked around saying that I'm pro-Black, because what does that mean? Like, that's weird that you're going to insult me for me liking myself. But it's like, that's what I'm saying. If we actually want spaces that we would be able to have more agency in telling our own story from our own perspective, from our own point of view, and if we feel like it needs to be separate from other communities for a while we work out our own kinks, who's willing to build that space? Who's willing to do it, and who's willing to support those who are doing it? That's my question. Because again, if that doesn't happen, then a space is created and a void is still available for this to happen again. Because think about it. Social media and Black folks, we got a short attention span. Just keep it up. We have a short attention span. So right now you may have some content creators who are like, nah, I ain't gonna talk with you. I ain't gonna mess with you. I'm not gonna mess with that person. So you may individually have some more barriers. You may have a little more division in the Black manosphere. You may have that person over there, that person over there. But give it a couple of months, give it a couple of years, and the same situation may happen again. Maybe not with her, but maybe with somebody else, if nothing changes. And so that's my bigger point. I'm like, unless there's an actual conversation about what can be done to create the systems, right? To create, whether it's organizations, whether it's media. I know you have you have different people out there who are trying to have their own independent media, who are trying to have their own schools, who are trying to actually teach about actual other languages, who are trying to teach about culture. Like, these are the kinds of things that are talking about industry. If that stuff actually doesn't exist for Black America, then the things that we say that we want or are lacking are going to continue. And usually that's the thing. I've noticed when I've heard men who do have that ideology or who do have that belief come in and kind of spew those ideas or talk about the importance of nation building. Like I said, sometimes those guys will be branded, or they'll be like, it don't take all that. They'll say, oh, you're a simp because you want to take care of the kids of these single mothers. Oh, you're a simp, or you're a hotep, you're on that Africa stuff, or you're a tether. Like, I've literally seen that on my, my short 2 years here. And all I'm saying is, unfortunately, if you don't have those nation builders, if you don't have those men who will come and it will be like, okay, I'm going to try to create a system where the women of my community, they have the first say, right? Or I can see dark skin, kinky hair every single day, and I celebrate that, right? They're the ones who are telling the story. They're the ones giving the interviews. They're the this. I'm creating a magazine for only dark skin and kinky hair. Whatever. I'm just trying to make up examples, but I'm saying, like, again, if that doesn't exist, then we cannot be mad if we are using systems, if we are operating in systems where it's open to everybody, and we get disrespected, because that's the history of this nation. And that's the blueprint of this nation. And we're still, literally, Black America is literally still fighting to a certain extent to try to get on equal footing socially. So again, that's what I'm saying. Well, why y'all surprised? Why y'all surprised? That's really my ultimate point. So I hope this isn't fake outrage. I alluded to this in my video before. I was like, not fake outrage, like y'all don't have feelings and like y'all don't have valid points. I absolutely think you do. Absolutely think you do have valid points and feelings. To me, it's more just like, what's going to be done? Is anything going to be done? Or is this going to be the talk of the town? Maybe the next couple of days, a couple of weeks, maybe even the next couple of months. And you have specific content creators, notable content creators who decide to distance themselves from just Pearly things. But give it a year or 2 or 3, and there is another opportunity where Black people are disrespected, Black people are mad, and life goes on. They're not put in positions where they feel like they own and tell their story, and they are put in position to actually be respected. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So, yes, it's definitely outrage with majority. Yeah, and like I said, and I don't want to be. I'm not saying like fake outrage. Like y'all ain't mad. Like I understand people being mad. I understand being people mad. And these opportunities to me are always great opportunities for reflection, right? Like you get to figure out personally where you were at with this whole thing. I think these raise up these again raise up questions about what does it mean to be, what does it mean to live in this society, in this integrated society. Do I want to be a part of building something where I can be more respected? Who do I want to like? Who do I identify with? I don't know, just to me, it brings up a lot of good questions. And I always like to take these situations not as a way to just try to create division, because I really don't like getting into the whole beef and stuff. To me, I think that's really silly. But more of an opportunity to be like, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I take away from this that's going to help me improve and do better moving forward? So that's on me. That's just how I like to look at it. But like I said, I don't, I'm not surprised at all. I don't endorse anything that she said or that was said in that interview. Even the apology, I'm like, okay, I get it. I get the apology, but ultimately there's still some ideals and there's still some working out that you got to do with yourself, because obviously that we see that there's some racist ideals, even if they're not explicit, they're implicit. So I'm like, to me, I've seen enough. I don't need to try to like, oh, well, maybe it didn't mean this and that. It's like, no, there's some anti-blackness there. You're going to have to sit there and go deal with it. And truth be told, a lot of Black folks, we have anti-Black sentiments ourselves, which is exactly why we continue to find ourselves in these situations. And we don't believe in ourselves. We don't really believe we deserve better, because if we did, then we would do something about it. That's what I'm saying. So for those who do think like, hey, I don't rock with this. Like, I want to be able to tell my own story. I want to be able to have my own stuff, whatever. Then it's like, okay, you can actually go and do it. Go and do it. And also know about yourself, understand your history. Don't have somebody come up here and tell you what's not, what is. Like, you got to know that. And so that you can, it's not even about you trying to be disrespectful or you trying to go around and teach everybody other stuff, but it's like, you don't want to fall for the okie doke, because the okie doke out here in America, unfortunately, the standard operating procedure in America, unfortunately, is that Black is at the bottom and white is up top. That's the way these things were set up. There was never meant to be a permanent class of Black people in America. We were originally brought over as slaves, and the intention of us was to use us for work and then to either use us until we die or to send us back. But the original intention of America was never to have Blacks over here like they're the number one social class. That was not the original intention. So as I said before, if you experience the tension of that, if there are moments where you run into like, oh, I thought we were cool, or whoa, I thought that was nice, but why did I get treated that way? It's like, you have to remember the history of this nation. Don't be surprised. Again, I'm not saying you can't have a great life. I absolutely believe you can, and you should absolutely strive for that. But if some of the things that you have access to right now are not working for you, what do you want to do about it? That's all I'm saying. So I think, yeah, I think that's all I got. Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know about the reparations, but I'm like, duh. Like if she did say that she was against reparations, that would be online with some of the other content that I saw her talking about slavery in general. Like I said, again, as a reminder, one of the popular promoted ideals out there was that slavery was not so, but this was going on back in the Civil War, right? Slavery is not so bad. And so therefore we don't need to free these slaves, because these slaves, they're happier under control. They're happier under bondage. They're happier under massa. And the sad thing about it, there's still Black people today who believe that. There are Black people today who will say that, what, it's better to be under a white slave master, because at least he's paying my bills. There are white Black people today who would gladly sign up to be on the plantation if they knew that they had a bed to sleep on and some nasty pig food. There are Black people today who would accept that, versus being like, actually, I don't need to depend upon you. I can do my own. But nevertheless, that ideal, it's Bob right. That ideal existed. That's what caused the Civil War, right? The South saying, y'all are tripping. Slavery is not that big of a deal. These Blacks need a slave master. And then even after slavery, right, that ideal continued because there was a need to consistently gaslight and undermine the atrocities of slavery, because if there wasn't a full acknowledgement of what was done and what actually has been done even after that point, if there was a full acknowledgement of that, then quite frankly, I think America would be bankrupt. I don't think they truly have the resources necessary to fully amend for all the atrocities they've done, not just the Black people, but just in general. So, but I'm saying that there actually is a need to gaslight and to underplay and to undermine that, because now you don't have to atone for your sins, and then now you don't have to face your own shame and guilt. And so again, when you're talking about things like slavery, and also there's this, I don't understand why people act like slavery was just hundreds of years ago when nothing else happened. Like slaves were just free, and then all of a sudden they were just treated like equal citizens, and they were treated just like Americans, and everyone was happy. It's like, no, that happened. Slavery was abolished. You still have the illegal slave trade. That's a whole other thing people don't want to talk about. The illegal slave trade, which, based upon some historians, suggest actually the majority of trafficked slaves came during the time where slavery was illegal. That's a whole nother thing. I do a live on this with, I think, Dr. Gerald Horn a few months back. But you had that. And then you also had, again, all of the policies and laws that were passed to make the lives of Black folks a living hell. So it wasn't just like slavery's done and that's the only bad thing, but then everything else was really good. It's like, no, you had that. You had Reconstruction era, and you had Jim Crow. You had the crack era. You had, redlining. You've had gentrification even more recently. Like there's been consistent things that have been done to help maintain the powers that be, which is usually at the expense of Black folks. So again, that's what I'm saying. If you actually understand history, it can be a little bit depressing. I will sit here and lie. It can be a little bit like dark, but you start to understand things a little more, and you have a perspective of, okay, this is what's gone on, and so now I can move accordingly. It doesn't mean you can't have a beautiful life. I absolutely believe that you can. And I love that God made me a Black woman. Like I love who I am, and I love that God made me in the body and the skin that I'm in. All of that. I think there's purpose in it. But it's also important to understand the history that my ancestors went through, and things that people are going through today, so that I can plan accordingly, and that I can also be responsible for helping to try to create a better future for those, hopefully in future generations. So all of that stuff. Shout out to you, Marcus Garvey. Thank you for the 20. It says it's all races racing against Blacks. Y'all better be strong out here. Yeah, no. And it's kind of like, I was talking to my husband about this, where it's like, it's wrong, right? But at the same token, it's like most people coming over here, if you're coming, let's say you're coming over here and you're an immigrant, right? Or whatever it may be. It's like, you're not trying to identify with the lowest of the low. You're trying to race to the top. You're going to try to do what you can to actually race to the top. So going back to what you were saying, it's like, hey, even if you understand, like, yeah, the Black and the brown, the white dynamic, like it's all, white being the standard, and then everything else trying to live up to that standard. And for other races, that might mean, okay, can I more closely identify with whiteness or more closely identify with Blackness? And if I can more closely identify with whiteness, that means I may have more access and easier time moving throughout spaces. So of course, you're going to have most races come over here. And if they can identify with whiteness, they'll do that because it's going to make their life easier. So it's like, and it's external again, like to a certain extent, I see it's like, okay, this is a survival mechanism. It's wrong, but it's a survival mechanism that most people take. So again, I'm not trying to depress y'all. I'm not trying to say, woe was me. Y'all gotta, the white supremacists, this and that. I'm not saying that. It's like, I'm just like, look, don't be surprised if you run into one, or even if you run into one that seems nice. And another thing I want to reiterate, just because somebody will sleep with a Black person, just because somebody will break bread with a Black person, just because somebody will give you a job, does not mean that they don't still hold anti-Black ideals. And sometimes people can hold those ideals and not even really fully be aware until they're faced with it. And I hope, if nothing else, like I said, this is a learning lesson for you. I know Miss Pearly Things gave her apology. I really hope she goes and sits down and works on herself and works all that racist ideology out, because like I said, that's real and it's there. And I'm not going to sit and pretend like it's not. That was not a misstep. That was not even if she was trying to play dumb, that was like, you exposed yourself. So you got to work that out. And do not be surprised. That's all I'm saying. Do not be surprised. And also, you have, like I said, who was willing to build, who was willing to go and do what they think needs to be done to create a space where you yourself can tell your story and be respected. That's my question. Also, you gotta support those who are telling the story that you want to get out there. That's another thing I'm gonna say too. Um, and then also too, what's another thing I was gonna say? Oh, yeah, I'm just kind of over the place because I wasn't planning on going live, but I think I'm gonna log off after this one. Um, I don't even know why, like randomly, I don't know why people were trying to like. I guess I mean it is social media. People try to stir up stuff. But Miss Pearly, I think her success has been phenomenal. I think she's gotten a lot of success over the obviously the last couple of months. And it's like, yeah, nobody can deny that she's a, obviously a savvy businesswoman, right? She studied under Kevin Samuels. I think she even studied under lead attorney. She invested thousands upon thousands in her business to get to where she is at now. So I hear people comparing her with like Danica Marie or other people. I'm just like, okay, first of all, to me, they're not even in the same space. Like they're totally different spaces. I don't know how they somehow end up in the same conversation. But nevertheless, it's like, why are we doing that? Like she's gotten where she's at because she has hard work, but she also had a lot of money to invest in her business. And that actually paid off. Not everybody's walking around with like wealthy parents, you know what I mean? Or a wealthy family to do that. Also, I don't understand the need to compare. It's like somebody can be successful over here and it's another person be successful over there, and it doesn't mean that they necessarily have to be in competition. So to me, the weird need to compare, first of all, a white woman in America that has a lot more resources and access to resources to a black woman that's trying to do things, doing things on her own, really, with a different social status and just in a whole different space. Yeah, to me, it's just weird. Like we need to stop. We need to cut this stuff out. Like I don't get that. Like let a content creator do their thing, but like don't sit here and try to stir a beat. That's just, to me, that's just really weird. And I've seen that too, like in the black males, where people being like, oh well, she's not like this, or I don't know, just somehow throwing in these other black people content creators that have been around for a long time. And I'm like, y'all, this is weird. But to be clear, if you do want to see a Danica Marie or a Crimson Cure or a Six or whatever, you do want to see them on the same level, there does need to be support. There does need to be people going in and helping to get to the next level. That's where it's like, y'all want that? Y'all love these women and y'all love what they're about or what I'm about or whatever. You partially have a responsibility to help us get there. Because most black folks, like I said, ain't sitting in a trust fund or don't come from a wealthy family. Generational wealth is not necessarily a thing in Black America, not so much. I mean, it happens here and there, but for most folks, it's not their experience. So this is where I'm saying a lot of this stuff goes back to you. What are you willing to do about it? And if you're not willing to do anything about it, then ain't nothing going to change. And as far as the Black Manosphere is concerned, it's been interesting to see how all this started over a white woman. But it'll be interesting to see how things turn around. So, anyways, yeah, I'm just honestly, I'm just kind of like, I'm blabbering today. I'm totally blabbering today. Seriously, thank you for bearing with me. I was going back and forth as to whether or not I should go live about this because I already did the pre-record, but I think I was like, let me just touch on this real quick, and then I'm gonna go about my life. I'm done with this whole Miss Pearly thing. I hope she works herself out over there, gets her life. I hope y'all ultimately y'all have seen what's gone on, and now you can plan accordingly. And like I said, if you whatever you choose, just don't be surprised. If you choose to want to do the integrationalist route, in as most of us have chosen, don't be surprised. If you want to be nationalist, or if you want to now try to culturally gatekeep, and we got to make sure we have our own conversations and run our own conversations, I'm for that. What you gonna do about it? You gonna build something? How are we gonna do it? That's gonna be my question. Because if nothing is done, ain't nothing gonna change. That's my thing. That is my main thing. Yeah, her family are rich. And yeah, okay. And another thing, yes, rich conservatives. Like obviously, a big component of conservatism is like pull yourself up by the bootstraps and figure it out. That's obviously that's a big talking point. And to be clear, I agree with that to a certain extent. I agree that you should do whatever you need to do to try to get ahead. I'm all for that. But I also agree, and I also believe that you don't want to overlook historical advantages that entire races have had. Like I don't I don't pull the whole, okay, your rich uncle gave you a $2 million loan, and then a year later you're like number one in your business or whatever, and people are just like, oh wow, you put yourself up by the bootstraps. Wow, you're such a hard worker, and it's like, Not her uncle gave her $2 million loan. That doesn't downplay the fact that maybe that person worked hard and they're also innovative, but let's not overlook the fact that they also had institutional advantage. So that's what I'm saying. It's like I agree with the whole you need to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and work hard, which is something I hear a lot by Black conservatives that I agree with a lot. I think we need to do more of that among the Black community. I just think sometimes there can also be a tendency to want to downplay the ways that other races or other groups have been institutionally advantaged. Like we want to overlook that. And I'm like, you can't do that when you have these conversations. We can't also act like race doesn't exist and that just Pearly things, a white woman using red pill talking points or using talking points from the Black manosphere doesn't mean something different than if a Black man did. We can't act like that doesn't change the dynamic in a Western culture, right? In a Western European created Anglo identified culture. Like we can't act like a white woman is saying something and a Black woman is saying something doesn't hold a different weight. It absolutely does. And to deny that to me is where you can create spaces for you to be shocked or frustrated. And I'm like, don't be. Just know what you're dealing with. Anyways, yeah, I've seen information that actually would actually challenge that. I posted something about this a few months ago that is the OECD. I can't think of the exact name, but basically it is it's a report that comes out I think every couple of years, and it shows what countries are the easiest to be upwardly mobile, like first world countries, and America ranked last. And yeah, most millionaires, from what I understand, actually I think do come from legacy money. Although if you have any information on that to show otherwise, please share it with me, because I'm always, data updates and things change and trends change. So I'm always doing my best to try to make sure that I'm saying something that is accurate, but I don't pretend to be perfect. So if you have any information on that, please show it. But no, from my understanding, generational wealth is a thing. That's even what marriage is about. Marriage is historically in America has been largely about transference of wealth and maintaining power, which is why intermixing and intermarrying for even today is not largely as possible. Now, interracial sex, on the other hand, and people sleeping around, that's different. But as far as you're taking my last name and I'm now sharing my legacy with you, still not nearly as popular, despite the fact that people have had access to it for decades. That's a whole other comment. Okay, I think that's all I got, y'all. This was kind of last minute. I hope I made sense. I kind of was like rambling today. I didn't have anything. I don't think I had anything too pressing other than I wanted to kind of just touch on this again, because I'm sure the next week or two, people are going to be blowing up and getting all kinds of conversations and super chats over this Just Pearly things. My main thing is, y'all, what we going to do about it? If we're really, 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 really concerned about cultural gatekeeping, what are we going to do? And also, let me say this, ladies, who are you supporting? Who are you supporting? I posted something a few hours ago about a young gentleman who follows me, who basically was just like, I'm in the Philippines and I'm building something here, for lack of a better term. He's like, I ain't waiting for this American woman. I'm not waiting for modern woman. I'm building something here. I have opportunities here and I'm getting treated well. And I've seen that countless times. I mean, the whole passport movement is that. It is some of the more upwardly mobile I said that right? Upwardly mobile moving men, successful men who are going abroad to try to find, because you have to have some resources to be able to go abroad and to fund that kind of lifestyle. So it's like these are generally the successful among us who are grabbing their passports. Some of them SYSBM, some of them literally going abroad. Some of them aren't marrying at all. Some of them just hate Black women because of their negative experiences. My point is, the men who would be responsible or who would have the skills and the ability to build things by which we could help culturally gatekeep, right? Or by which we could help control some of these different things that we feel like have gotten under control. Those men are going away, grabbing their passports, building elsewhere, marrying out, integrating, forgetting about it. And so the reason I say this is because, is there even a culture where the men who are building those kinds of systems that we say that we want are being celebrated? All those men being celebrated, are they being supported? I said the same thing about women. It's like, look, y'all got to start supporting the women who are out there supporting the message that you want, who are saying they don't hate you, they think you should live, who are trying to learn about your experience, who are trying to support you. But the same needs to be said about the woman. It's like, or the men. It's like, are those men even being supported? Are they giving the time of day? Are we listening to them? Or are we calling them corny and lame and gay? And well, he, don't like his mama, or your mommy black, or, doing all kinds of things to kind of minimize their experience. Because the issue is, if those kinds of men aren't celebrated, if they're not pushed up, if they're not given a mic to speak, if they're only disparaged as hoteps and tethers and simps or whatever, nothing changes. And when I see men who literally have the resources and the means to do that, and they say, I was called corny, lame, I was called this or that, like they come with the energy of, I wasn't celebrated to begin with, so why am I going to now go and build for a community that has hated me, that has minimized me, that called me all kinds of names, that saw me as deplorable, that saw me as weak, saw me as lesser than. Why am I going to go back and now build the very community that rejected me? And that's another thing that we have to deal with too. Because if the people who do have the resources and the means, if they're not being celebrated, if that stuff isn't being seen as valuable, if those men are being seen as valuable, if they're not at the very least respected, I'm not saying you have to even agree with everyone. It's like, but if there's not even that sense of respect, big outrage. The big outrage. Are we even honoring and celebrating those kind of men to begin with, ladies? Ladies have a part to play in this too. I know right now the Black manosphere is divided and it looks kind of like a mess. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you got Black men fighting over white women. That like on the optics of that alone, it's just like that looks bad. But nevertheless, it brings up a lot of important topics, and one of them to me is, okay, well, we want somebody to build this. We want somebody to help culturally gatekeep. Who's doing that? Who's doing that? So this is a whole other thing to think about. Yeah, this is a whole another thing to think about. I was thinking how it brought up to me. I'm trying to think of how anything else. I'm just rambling. I said you were a nerd. That's good for you. Good for you, John Doe. Good for you, John Doe. You was a nerd, but you were good with the lady. Okay, like I said, not everybody's over here with their. Bear with me, you guys. Okay, sorry guys, technical issues. Said you risk your life trying to help you. What's going on, Nefertiti? Says great video and content as always. I love your videos. Says what are your thoughts about FBA? Because I'm sick and tired of FBA with divisive rhetoric, and I'm Black American. That's a really good topic. I personally have no issue with the person wanting to identify with whatever. I mean, on a basic level, it's like if you find pride in the fact that, okay, your ancestors were here for a certain point, I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't rock with the divisive narrative though. I think when we start getting into policing hairlines, it's not serious. When you start getting into policing like skin tones and like really, really useless stuff, like to me, it's dumb and not serious at all. But I'm like, somebody wanted to take pride in the fact that like, oh, my grandma used to teach me these, I don't know, this, like I learned collard greens from my grandma. She taught me sweet potato pie. Like somebody taking pride in that, I don't see necessarily anything wrong with it. But also too, it's like, can we still be honest about history though too? Don't be sitting here talking about you're FBA, but you're a Martian, but then you're Cherokee also, but then you're also an Israelite, but then you were originally a Moor. But then like at a certain point, things can just get weird. So I'm like, to me, I think it's just really how are you using it? Like, how are you using it? And yes, I posted about this on Twitter where I'm just like, why do I see Black folks online arguing about lineage? Like, it's weird. Like, at a certain point, it just becomes counterproductive. And it just seems low key like there's some other weird something going on behind it. Cause, like, if it's creating division in a community that's already really small and at risk, like, that's not helping. So yeah, I think initially I'm like, yeah, if somebody wants to take pride in where they came from and the fact that they fought through struggles, I don't see nothing wrong with that. But it's like also still know your history. Let's not get into trying to police hairlines because that's really weird. And what are you doing? What are you doing with it? Going back to my bigger point. Okay, so let's say you identify with your great grandmother. Like my lineage goes back here for a long time. Okay, like what am I doing with that? Am I going to sit in here and be like, oh, well, check people's hairlines and ask them for their lineage, or like what does that do? You know, what does that mean? And I think to me, that is really where the question has to become more important. Forget about, because think about it, like, do white people go around doing that? Do you think white people go around being like, oh, you foundational white American? Are you foundational? Let me look at your hairline. Are you foundational white American, or are you a tether from Germany? Like, do white people do that, or do white people are trying to do is as much as they can to get more white folks here and to improve the white population? That's what they're trying to do. So I think at a certain point, when it becomes divisive and weird and ahistorical, then to me it's like we've gone too far. But I don't see anything wrong with somebody, like, understanding and recognizing the fact that their culture, their experience here is unique, and honoring that. And Nefertiti says, exactly, that's why I don't take this movement seriously. It's always about dissing other groups. And if we want progress, we need to work together. We are people of African descent. I don't understand the self-hatred. Yeah, I don't get it either. So again, shout out to you. Thank you for the generous super chats. I appreciate you. Also, all y'all. You said hairline. What? No, that's literally, I don't even want to get too deep into it, but you got people out there policing hairlines. I'm like, really? Like, talk about, that's why I had to step back. I was like, this to me don't seem right, because like we're supposed to be building the Black community supposedly, and now we're talking about hairlines. Like you're not serious at that point. You are not a serious individual if that's what you're doing. So for me, like I said, when the conversation starts to get into that, and who has a better hairline, and whether your hairline is FBA, ADOS, or tether, I'm like, you done lost me. Like, this is no longer a serious conversation. That's for the birds over there, and I'm over there. Like, I'm not in that room. So like I said, if you're there with it, I can't rock with you. But if you're, like I said, trying to do something positive and move forward or whatever, I'm like, okay, I don't see nothing wrong with that. And like I said, yeah, there is a unique Black experience that people have had who've been here, who their family's been here. So there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that. I see nothing wrong at all. Just don't be divisive and don't be ahistorical. That's my thing. I'm trying to think if I got anything else. Yeah, a lot of people have speak on that one. You talk about Black folks with self-hatred. That's what I was saying before. It's like anti-Blackness it's a thing that we ourselves experience, and it is made clear based upon the way that we treat ourselves and the kind of behaviors that we accept. There's a reason Black people don't take there's a reason other people don't take Black people seriously. It's because Black people don't take Black people seriously. Black people half the time, we don't even want to live around each other. We don't want to live around each other. We don't want to employ each other. We don't want to go to each other's businesses. If we do see Black business, we try to get a discount. We don't treat each other with respect. That's among Black folks. So it's like, if you don't even respect yourself, and if you don't even respect those who look like you, then how are you expecting other people to do the same? Your house is already broken down. So if your house is broken down, you can't be surprised if somebody comes in and then just disrespects you. You know what I mean? So it says, thank you for not bashing Black men that supporting pro like few other Manosphere women. Wait, thank you for not bashing Black men. Wait, I'm trying to understand what you're saying. That supporting pro like few other Manosphere women. Okay, yeah, I don't know, but thank you anyways. I'm trying to understand exactly the point. But anyways, I get it. Yeah, so anyways, guys, this has been fun. I've just been going off. I kind of wanted to get this out of the way because I was like, I don't think I want this energy, honestly, going into the new week. I'm hoping to do some more wifey stuff. I actually had a cash up too, or two that I wanted to acknowledge. Thank you, Rakeem Singleton. Thank you so much for that cash up. Thank you. And then thank you so much, Bill Gibbs, for the 5. Appreciate y'all coming through, showing some love. Yeah, so like I said, I just honestly wanted to kind of get this out of the way. It's okay. It's all good. I just wanted to make sure I understood your point. But yeah, I wanted to get this out of the way because I have some things I want to do over the next couple of weeks that hopefully will focus on what are things that we can do that's actually going to help improve. Y'all know I love talking about wifey stuff, so I have some Black wives that I've been able to connect with, and I'm hoping to bring them on. Also, side note, but I'm like, I think I am. Well, no, actually, I'll wait for that. That's gonna be a coming soon. So forget that thought. But yes, I do have plans to interview some more just more wives in general, especially Black wives, because I think it is we need to see that, y'all. We already know the image of Black women is to hell, literally. And I'm just so tired of seeing trash. Like I saw, I was somewhere earlier today and I saw this cute little girl with some like pigtails. And my husband whispered to me, he was like, this is the generation that you're doing this stuff for. If you see that little girl, you see that girl with pigtails and little binky, like you got to think about her. You got to think about what they're going to be see coming up. So there's an aspect of me that's just like, okay, there's so much garbage out there. There's so much trash, and I can't control what other people do, but I can do my best to try to learn to be an example and to also share that there is an alternative way. And so I'm really passionate about wanting to work with women who actually don't think marriage is horrible and actually do see value in building family and seeing it as a calling and a gift from God, and the power in it, and the power in actually raising a family, and going against this whole, a lot of these lies that women have been told through feminism, through the modern world, all that different stuff. So y'all know I want to get back into that stuff, and I'm gonna continue that and all this. I'm gonna continue all of it, but I wanted to enter into the week with that energy. I didn't want to enter the week with this whole divisive energy that I see going on in the Black YouTube space. That is explicitly identifying the Black manosphere. And then some of the other female content creators, I just didn't want to deal with it. So I was like, let me just get this out of the way on Sunday, and then tomorrow, the following week, we can focus on maybe some more productive, practical things. And more importantly, I wanted to take this situation that's brought a lot of chaos as an opportunity to bring up questions that I think are productive. Like, what are we going to do about it? What would it take to build? What would it look like to build? What would it look like practically to have the systems necessary to actually control our own story? And I mentioned Omowale Africa because, like I said, he called this stuff out months ago, which he did. But I think more importantly, it's something to think about. And if you find that you're around people who aren't even talking about that, like, look, I'll be honest. Like, a lot of the stuff that I learn is from my husband. I'm in a constant learning, whether I want it or not. I'm in a constant class with my husband, and he's very passionate about wanting to do things and build things, and works with other people behind the scenes, and is involved in organizations and involved in things to try to help make that a reality. And so I'm like connected to that, right? But at the same time, it's like, if you're interested in that but you find that people around you are just complaining all the time, or it's where you feel like it's victim mentality, or they just they're not even there with it, then maybe this can be an opportunity for you to go and say, okay, do I want to be that person? Do I want to change my circle? Do I really want to get myself around influences who are about trying to do something more productive, or actually help change the narrative or help change things? I don't know, just something to think about. He said we should literally be building buildings. Yeah. So anyways, y'all, this has been fun. This has been fun as always. Yeah. Oh, I think I already brought that one up. I'm sorry, I'm tripping. I'm like, did I already brought that one up? Yeah. Anyway, so I think that's it. And thank you guys for bearing with me. I've kind of been rambling this live. I don't think I've been as organized as I want, but like I said, it's late, kind of last minute, and I didn't want nothing other to get this off my chest and just let y'all know that let this be an opportunity for you to not only don't get caught up in the chaos and all of the bickering and all the fifis, but use this as an opportunity to make a decision. I think to make a positive decision. If you really want to do something to change, then you have a responsibility to do it. It can be something as small as, look, maybe I don't have the energy or the skill to do that, but I'm going to support somebody who can. If it's an organization, if it's a church, if it's all the, but like, I'm just saying, whatever your part is, do it. And especially for ladies, I think it's really important to think about what kind of culture are you nurturing among our men? What kind of men are we celebrating? What kind of men are we not celebrating? Are we celebrating men at all? Are we even doing that? Are we nurturing? Are we encouraging the men who are doing the right things, who are living up to the standards of what would be needed to help make things better? Are we even doing that? Or are we constantly saying these men ain't this, these men ain't that, these niggas ain't that, are we, is that what we're doing? Because at a certain point, we also have to take responsibility for some of this negativity that people are always complaining about. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, you said folks are selective outrage. Yep. I got people so mad at me too when I was like, y'all, this is fake outrage. She's like, no, this is, I heard you tether babble, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, okay, you obviously didn't listen past 10 seconds of my video. Okay. Because you can't sit here and tell me that you're gonna get all your feelings, all your panties all up in a bunch. You grown man panties all up in a bunch. You're over here defending your godmother like nothing. But then nothing changes. You can't tell me that's not fake out. You can't tell me that's not fake outrage. If everybody, like I said, everybody on YouTube panties in a bunch. But unless nothing changes, then that's what I'm saying. Then we'll see this. We will absolutely see this happen again if nothing changes. And also I kind of wanted to let me clarify this too. When I was talking about like cultural gatekeeping earlier, I was like, um, prime example of cultural gatekeeping. You know why? Like you got other cultures who get together and they speak their language among different people. They have their own schools or whatever. It's because other people can't understand them, so they can organize and they can walk. They can do things in a way to where other people's literally can understand them, and that gives them a sense of autonomy. And that's what I'm saying. Like in a space like YouTube, for example, where there ain't no like there's not like a black YouTube specter where like you have to try to qualify to be in there and you have to try to prove that you're black to see content. That don't exist. This is open to anybody. Right now, I could have some people from, I don't know, Dominican Republic. I got people from China listening. I got people from India. I have people from Germany. Like I could have people from anywhere listening into this. We could have white neo-Nazis right now listening to this. And probably actually them. I mean, they come here all the time and stir up stuff and study what we do, study the weak points. It happens all the time. And so again, I'm saying this to say that when you want to talk about cultural gatekeeping practically, it's really hard to do that in spaces such as this, where anybody can see stuff and hear stuff without any barrier. That's what I mean. And I'm like, if there's a real serious effort to feel like, look, there's certain conversations that just simply do not need to be had outside of this context or outside of our own race because other people won't understand because of this and that. All I'm saying is there has to actually be systems created for that. Otherwise, you can't really control it. That's kind of what I mean. Anyways, I think I rambled. Shout out to you, Saying Life. It says Pearly said present day white people didn't enslave black people, so why should they pay When did she say this, y'all? You might have to send me that video. If somebody has a video of her talking about reparations, please let me know, because I would gladly review that. And also, it's funny you say that, because I actually have an article I was going back and forth that I wanted to read that was written actually from a black historian. I found him on Dr. Issa, and he broke down, I think, a few years ago with another professor. They made a case as to why, not to say like why reparations would never be passed, but essentially, yeah, it was somewhere around that idea of like, will reparations ever be passed? And here's the different reasons why it hasn't. So Miss Pearly thing saying that, I would love to see if there's a video. If you guys have access to it, please send it to me, because I would like to review it. Again, I think it's important because what Miss Pearly things is saying, she's not coming out of the blue with this kind of stuff. This is an idea that's been going on forever in America, which is why black people haven't had reparations even after slavery. It would be said it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that big of a deal, which is why they didn't get reparations, which is why they didn't really get assistance after slavery, although white slave owners did. So I would love to review that video, because I do think when you're talking about things like that, and when you're talking about what it would actually take to repair, it's important to understand the efforts that have been made to try to do so, and also the resistance, because that can also help bring things into perspective. Like I don't want it to seem like ever since black people were enslaved, we were just sitting around shiftless, didn't do anything, didn't build anything, and the men didn't ever do anything. The women were just trying to sleep with the white man. Like that is not history at all. At all. There are plenty of people who've fought, and fought brutally and tried hard and worked hard to do different things and had buildings and had businesses and towns and all. There's been all kinds of efforts, and there's also been a lot of efforts to sabotage. And like as I mentioned in my video before, it's like, again, reparations is a tricky topic. It's a touchy topic, but one of the reasons somebody can say slavery isn't that big of a deal is the reason why they can now say, therefore, you don't need reparations. The hell with the fact that my great grandfather got some generational wealth, or the hell with the fact that, well, this person and that person got some slave money. The hell with that. I'm the great granddaughter. It don't affect me anymore. I didn't enslave anybody, or I employed somebody. I can. That's what I'm saying. Like, these ideas they've always been around. They're just now here in a new form. And yeah, I don't know how you get around that, but that's highly insensitive and super racist. When in fact, like I said, you got white slave owners that got that to me. That's the thing that got me. I'm like, wait, you had a white slave owners get reparations, and black folks a couple hundred years still fighting for that. And we really surprised that you got people over here talking about slavery ain't no big deal. Y'all don't. It's like when people show you their true colors, believe them. America has already showed you what they believe about the struggle. Wait, what was some Obsidian's live earlier? Wait, you said that was from her live earlier? Please don't tell me that was from her live earlier. Is that what you're saying? You're saying that in her live earlier she talked about slavery instead? Please, is that what y'all saying? Bingo. That's what I'm saying. If people are like, why y'all surprised? This is not. I spent the first 20 minutes being like, y'all surprised? Really? This is not surprising. And the fact that you are surprised is actually quite disturbing. Oh, it was from today. Oh God. Okay. I didn't see it. I was hoping that this live would. We'll see. We'll see what this week's brings. Because part of me is just like, I just want to kind of break away from this whole conversation. I've done my piece. She's shown what she believes. I don't agree with it. I think there definitely needs some racist ideas that she needs to deal with. I'm not going to sit there and sugarcoat that. That's me. But I didn't see today's live. Like I said, you also going to have black men who are going to die on that hill. I don't get it. I think it's actually embarrassing to a certain extent, like after some of the things that were said. But that's just me. I don't agree with it. But unless you're going to have some men who are going to die on that hill and they're going to continue to support her. You also have other black men who are just like, nah, we don't rock with it. So there's a divide. But yeah. Oh, Obsidian asked her thoughts on reparations earlier on. I could have told. I mean, okay. Yes. So assuming that's the case, she's not necessarily. She's probably not sorry about what she said. Just maybe the way that she came off. But if she honestly believes slavery wasn't that big of a deal, again, it's not surprising that she wouldn't think that reparations was necessary. That the atrocities done systematically over a couple of hundreds of years doesn't need to be in any way, shape, or form addressed. It's not necessary. Again, a lot of people hold that viewpoint, which is why it hasn't happened. Because like I said, if they didn't hold that viewpoint, they would have passed it already, like they have for other communities. Y'all surprised? Y'all really surprised? I mean, it's, yeah, I'll have to think about if I want to address that. Oh, so you guys said, so he said it I mean, I haven't had a chance. I haven't had a chance to go back, but you're saying at the beginning of the interview, she said that? Oh, was there another there's another super chat? I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, it said it's pure fake outrage. It's an excuse for people to blame others instead of taking accountability. Now people can gatekeep if they bingo. You want it. You were on it for I hear you. Okay, so Pearly said present day white people. Oh yeah, I think you already said that one. Yeah, that's kind of sad. Yeah, no, I'm not. Listen, I'm not here to bash anybody. I'm really not here to bash anybody. This is me personally. There's aspect of me that feels like I just try to have a baseline of respect for people, period. Because I'm like, at the end of the day, I serve God and God made people. So for me, I always try to just lead with respect because that's just how I am. I'm not here to try to disrespect or police or control anybody's decisions. Y'all get to do whatever you want to do. I'm here to just say, look, this is the reality of what it is. Don't be surprised if you get this result. As I mentioned before, if you're integrating or you're trying to get along well in a society that has already shown you years after years, evidence after evidence, that it does not value you the way it values other races, do not be surprised if you experience anti-blackness. That's all I'm saying. Don't be surprised. Like, don't be, oh my gosh, this is so dope. Like, duh, this is America, heller. And if you want something different, what you gonna do about it? That's all I'm saying. And if you don't really care, if you're just like, look, I don't, this race thing, y'all making too big of a deal about it. Okay, then fine. Like, you have every right to take that position and see this as no big deal, and then just try to partner with whoever to get money, no matter what. That's also always happened too. There's always been a subset of Black people who are just like, look, this is a system we have. I don't care about no discrimination. I don't care about no racism. How can I get what I can get? And if that means I have to kind of step over some people in the meantime, if that means I have to try to identify maybe with this side against my people or whatever, I'm going to do it. Y'all know the earliest Black capitalists. Y'all know the earliest Black capitalists were slave owners. Slave owners. If you really want to get down to it, I don't mean that's a whole other conversation, but like, they were. So it's like there's always been a that ideology in the Black community where it's just like, okay, look, this is race, whatever, racing, whatever. What's gonna give me the money? I don't care about race. I don't care about none of that. What's gonna get me the money? And that is the biggest focus is capital and gaining wealth and assets. You've always had that. Like I said, you have the other side who's like, I don't rock with that. I want to do something better. So you get to decide which side are you. But all I can say is whatever side you choose, don't be surprised at the results. If you choose to overlook the race thing, not that big of a deal, I'm going to go over here. Don't be surprised if you're disrespected, because you probably will be. That's all I'm saying. And if you don't want to rock with that, then you actually have to support those who are trying to help build a different, better reality. That's all I'm saying. Basic stuff, y'all. This ain't nothing. This is not rocket science. This is just like being an adult 101. But unfortunately, I know in the Black community, a lot of things are broken down. And I can see this based upon this whole conversation. I'm just like, wow, like we're really, like, I don't even know what it is. It's like, is there not an understanding on history? Is there not an understanding on politics? Are people just in their fifi? Like it's just quite crazy to me to see the amount of dissension that has come over a white woman talking to a white man. Like, like, hello, y'all don't know history. Anyways, I may have to go out and check out the old man. I just haven't had a chance to see it. But I did see today that he interviewed just Pearly, and I know that there's been a lot of back and forth in the Black Manosphere or Black Manosphere adjacent men channels. So yeah, I'm just gonna silently watch. But anyways, my goal is to never to sit here and try to undermine anybody and try to control what anybody does. Like I said, I'm not y'all adults or y'all mamas, so y'all are grown. Anyways, this has been fun. I've been rambling so long. Stay tuned for other upcoming content, other wifey stuff, other pick-me stuff, other femininity stuff, other encouraging topics. And as always, be sure to support your favorite content creators and support those who are promoting the message that resonates with you. And yeah. Anyways, thanks guys for hanging out with me, and we'll talk later. Okay. Okay, guys. Bye.